sometimes just get up in the mornings and think to yourself, today, I'm gonna get a lot done? Well, this morning, I woke up, I arose from the Lazarus chamber that keeps me so young looking, and I thought to myself, today, I'm gonna answer everyone's question they've ever had, every single question today, and I'm just gonna answer it plain and simply. How do you write, how do you tell a good story? What makes a good story? What makes a good fantasy story? A science fiction story? A horror story? Suspense? Romance? Slice of life? What makes a good story? Now, it should go without saying, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks like this. Now, how did this question come to be? Because certainly not all of you synchronized your comments to ask me how to write a good X or Y. A good romance story, a good slice of life story. And I got a question from a viewer. Plainly and simply asking Max, how do I write a good genre story? They asked slice of life. But I feel that I can do better than that and just literally answer every genre possible. You may be asking yourselves, Max, that's a big question. And this video doesn't appear to be 50 hours long. So how are you gonna answer that? Well, first and foremost, we must look at the origin of the question. What do people mean when they say a good slice of life story? A good romance story? A good fantasy story? I feel, especially people who haven't gone through the whole process or who are in the middle of writing a project, when they ask me that question, they're wondering probably two different things. What makes a story sell? Or what makes a story popular? What makes it so that when a story comes out, it just blows up and everyone loves it? You could also add the third one. What makes how can you make it so people love your story? And I think that those three are questions that originate from the same fear, but they're all masked under the idea of, well, what makes it good? Because, I'm writing the story, and I want to make sure it's good. I want to make sure I'm not wasting my time writing the story if it's not going to be good. Now, fears like that are completely understandable, especially if you're in the middle, or let's say the first half of writing a story, and you've never done this before, and you're feeling that ever so familiar sense of dread. And then, when the words don't come to you, you wonder to yourself, is this story even going to be good? And then, we as humans, we feel that very particular part of our brain, a very particular light bulb goes off. Or goes on, I guess. And that light bulb is the escape mechanism light bulb. If this story ain't even gonna be good, why am I writing it? If this relationship is going nowhere, if my degree is not gonna get me anything, I should just get out of here. I should just escape. Some might call it the fight or flight response. I would call it just the mostly flight response. Hey, slow down, okay? I don't want you to make a rash choice, like just dump all those months of work down the drain and start a new project just because you're worried this one might not be good. Or excuse me, should I say good? Because when people ask me, Max, how do you write a good story? I feel like they mean, how do you write a story that's gonna sell? How do you write a story that people are gonna like? How do you write a story that's gonna be popular? And I have an answer for you. I'm gonna tell you the simplest, most easy answer ever. And I can't believe people don't just understand this. You know what's the story that sells? The story that people fall in love with? The story that blows up and gets super popular? The story that's finished. The story that goes out into the world. I'm just gonna take a second now, just to wait for the fallout of your mind, of your blown mind, to finally descend down from the stratosphere. Hey there. I know it's scary to write a book. Trust me. every time I've sat down to do it, and I've done it like a dozen times, it's scary. Because you don't know where it's gonna go. And the more time I spend writing, the more time I realize that it's just a matter of seeing where it takes you. Is it hard work? Does it take a long time? Yep, and yep. But that's okay. Because all that matters is that we get that story finished. Now, there might be someone out there who is a little cynical and maybe wondering, no, there has to be a way to know. There must be a way to know if this story is gonna be popular and it's gonna sell and people are gonna love it. There must be a way. How can you have written so many books and not known? Okay, listen. I'm gonna open up the curtain and I'm gonna let you see behind it, okay? No one knows. Do you think that if there was a formula to create something that everyone would love and it would blow up and it would be super successful, don't you think we would all know that? Because we would be able to see it. We will be able to see that every story is the exact same story. And now, at this point, I think that you and I, dear viewer, you and I, realize that we have both emerged at the very bottom of the rabbit's hole. Because we've spent a lot of time worrying and talking about what ifs and what abouts. What if this happened? What about that? Wasted a lot of time worrying and less time working on finishing things. But before I go, there's one more thing I want to touch on. One more thing that I feel there's a different aspect to this. And it's likely that I overlooked it in the original question. How do you write a good slice of life? How do you write a good fantasy story? A good romance, a good horror story, a good thriller. These are all completely different stories. But I think that the solution, the answer to what can make them shine, is the same. Do not ever waste your time writing anything less than what excites you, what makes you, gets you to sit down and write. Someone out there, someone who I am about to destroy with words, may tell you that it is wrong to write self-indulgent stories, that it is wrong to write stories that you find enjoyable and that make you happy. That person is wrong. That person is a fool. Because that person is never gonna finish a single story. I know that person, because I met them in college. And I know where that person is right now. And they haven't finished the thing. Create what excites you. You're wondering what makes a great fantasy story? What makes a great science fiction story? What makes a great slice of life story? You define that. You seek to find inside of this genre, which are a myriad of things. Look at it and ask yourself, what do I love the most about this? What do I want out of it? And make the story all about that. Entirely about that. Unapologetically about that. There is a magic that only books can do. And it is, in its essence, the weirdness of the author. The uniqueness of the author. We paint with our colors. And my red is different from your red. The canvas, the page may be the same. And the words we have may be similar words. But my colors are different from your colors. And my weirdness is different from your weirdness. And my slice of life is different from your slice of life. Because to me, slice of life means something else. Fantasy means something else. And the moment where you find a book that you just love is when the things you love and the things that author love cross over in the midsection of that Venn diagram. And it's almost as though you have discovered someone who gets you, who understands all along what you have wanted, and what you never actually were able to put to words. There are particular authors of fiction, and of films, and of video games that have touched me, because I found in their own personal weirdness a definition for the things I loved that I never knew. Lemony Snicket's sinister adults, Yoko Taro's weirdness and unapologetic taste for despair. There's a color to you, and I could not forgive myself if I were to tell you to get someone else's colors. Go and take the default how to tell a good slice of life story palette and paint your story with those. I can't do that. I would rather set the manuscript on fire first, and I would never do that. What do you find the most exciting about that genre? What is it that you love the most about fantasy? What did you love the most about science fiction? About romance? About horror? About thriller? About slice of life? And if you can't define it, if you can't pin it down just yet, go and read someone else's work. Watch someone else's work. Experience someone else's take on it. And take what you love. No apologies. And toss away what they did wrong. Because everyone has different tastes. And I think it's unrealistic. Almost childish, I would dare say, to imagine a world in which your story will be liked by everyone. I don't think that happens. Because everyone has different tastes. And everyone is looking for something different. So why put on a blindfold and shoot an arrow at a target that may not even have a bullseye, when you could just instead spend your time dedicated, committed to the story you really want to tell? Because, I'll tell you, I've written a lot of stories. And I've been through chapter 1 all the way through the epilogue several times. And the only thing that got me to finish, to make it all the way through, the first draft, and then the several revision passes, and then the publishing process, the only stories that got me to make it through that trek are the ones that I loved, the ones I made with love, the ones that I made drunk in the excitement of the things that made me happiest. Being lost in your own story. Being delighted to sit down and tell it, regardless of how sad it may be, of how wonderful it may be, because there's a little bit of a misunderstanding that somehow fun things should be happy. Fun things can also be incredibly sad. Tragedies, that's a completely different genre of story altogether. But if you find that fun, you find that fun, and that's okay. I want you to come out of this video today, out of this lesson, out of this class, committed to just telling the story you want to tell. Because slice of life means something different to everyone. And I don't care what everyone thinks. I care what you think. Because I want to read your slice of life. Okay? Okay. I hope this helped. And I hope that if anything, I gave you another point of view. Now, as we roll into the formal outro, just a couple quick things. I really hope that this helped. I want to let you know, Twitter account. I have a Twitter account where I talk about whatever I'm up to in my personal process, and I post writing advice, and I also post writing jokes because people really like those, and whenever I come up with a good idea for a good pun or just some sort of like image macro, I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's make this joke happen. Also, if you love my work and you want to make sure that I can continue making it for the foreseeable future, please consider pledging $1 to my Patreon. $1 gets you to watch these videos a week in advance before they go live on YouTube. You get to watch them, you get to leave comments and get your questions answered way faster, and also you get to vote on polls, and you get to watch my monthly workshop a whole month before it goes up. And I think that's pretty darn cool. $1, that's all I ask of you. But if you don't want to, if you can't, that's fine. Keep on watching, these videos will be here for you. But if you want to support, and you can support a little bit more, you can get a shout out like the people on the screen right now. Thank you so much for your support. You're helping me a lot, and I really appreciate it. This video wouldn't be possible without you. And now, we're in the outro. Hey there. I hope today's video helped, and I hope that I got you to look at your story as something else other than its success or its popularity. Because I think stuff like that is poison for storytelling, especially when you're in the middle of writing. And I know someone out there is probably going to bring up agents and publishing, and they'll probably say something along the lines of like, well, good luck selling that book that you wrote with love if it doesn't fit the demographics that they want to for the publishing house. And my reply to that is, well, I mean, that book has more of a chance of getting picked up than the book you haven't finished. You gotta finish things. It's the only way to get them out there in the world. It's the only way. You gotta finish things. You can sell what you have finished, but you cannot sell that unfinished story. Okay? Go on up there. Find what you love. Let it consume you. And tell a damn good story about it. Okay? Okay.